Guernsey is approximately 65 miles from the UK mainland, but only 20 miles from France.
Much too close.
We flew to Guernsey on the island's owned airline, whose name is almost unpronounceable, so I'm not going to attempt it here.
That's not unpronounceable, it's Arigny.
On arrival, we headed to St. Peter Port. Notice the lack of apostrophe S, designed just to catch out tourists. The first thing you notice when you get there is the large number of yachts in the harbour. This is probably because Guernsey has 0% inheritance tax, 0% capital gains tax, 0% wealth tax, and a flat rate of 20% income tax. The catch being, to qualify as a non-islander, you need to buy a property worth £1.4 million or more. To ensure the local economy continues to be supported, they've built this rather innovative facility to train the next generation of yacht owners.
Watch it, Gav, you're straying a bit too close to boat pub territory here. We don't be attracting any of their demographic. Anyway, enough of this boat crap. Where's the pubs?
St. Peter Port has 2 pubs in the Good Beer guide. This, the Harbour Lights, wasn't one of them, but we popped in anyway just to have a look out of curiosity. Liberation from German occupation at the end of World War II is still widely celebrated across the island, as you can see here.
Liberation, that'd make a good name for a beer if you ask me.
Although this postbox does seem to be wearing a funny hat.
Bloody old lady knitting vandals.
The High Street in St. Peter Port is pedestrianised, it's very nice, and includes many UK retailers you'll recognise, as well as some local boutiques. Even better news, there are no McDonald's, no KFC, no Burger King, or any of the other ubiquitous fast food behemoths. In spite of this, their seagulls are just as big and aggressive as those on the mainland.
What? Not even a Greg's? Tell me they got a Greg's.
And so on to the first of the 2 pubs in the Good Beer guide, the Thomas de la Rue.
That sounds like a French gay pub if you ask me.
The bar is split into 2 parts, a sort of bistro area upstairs for dining and a more traditional bar part downstairs towards the rear. It was the latter that we opted for and went in to get a pint of ale. Unfortunately, the choice was somewhat limited. All the taps were upstairs. They had to go upstairs to get the beers, and it was a choice of Liberation Ale or Butcombs. So I went for the Liberation Ale.
Ah, Liberation Ale! Look, they listen to me.
The non-nautical coves amongst you, these flags say, don't forget to like and subscribe. On the way to our next attraction, we passed the Swan Pub, but we didn't go in as it was closed at the time. And we then came across Candy Gardens, which sounds like a line from Walk on the Wild Side, but is in fact a very picturesque park in the centre of town. We then arrived at the German Naval Signal Station, which is a restored underground World War II bunker and a major tourist attraction. Everything is relative on Guernsey. Entry is very reasonable at £4, and we were part of a group of 6 on a guided tour. The bunker itself has been faithfully restored, so you can relive the experience of German oppression during World War II.
Say what you like about those Nazis, but they were always really smartly dressed.
The German underground hospital, although also an underground bunker, was less impressive, being cold, desolate and frankly rather depressing.
That doesn't look depressing. You need to go to Mountain Ash if you really want to experience depressing.
The next pub, also in the Good Beer guide, was the Ship and Crown, right on the seafront and just a yacht's throw from the harbour. Another pub of 2 halves, the downstairs area being a traditional bar, TV, football, and just give you an idea, they were playing Iron Maiden when we walked in. And then upstairs, a far more smart dining area. Choice of ales, again, somewhat limited to Butcombe and the Liberation Ale, and on this occasion I changed and went for the Butcombe, which was also delightful.
What's happened there?
Rather than by yacht, a more practical way to get around the island is by bus, which are excellent, cheap at £1.90 for a flat fare and very regular, although some of our bus drivers were a bit grumpy if we're being completely honest.
Grumpy bus drivers? Get away.
On to our next venue, and I'm sure you can guess the history behind the delightfully named Slaughterhouse bar. If you need a clue, these iron tethers will help. When we visited, there was a different kind of carnage going on as Arsenal were playing PSG in the Champions League final, and unfortunately they came second. Inside the Slaughterhouse is the main restaurant, which is a very nice 2-tiered affair, serving a very heavily meat-based menus, as you would imagine. As we were leaving, this was getting very busy indeed, so obviously it looks like the happening place to be.
Oh, that's a Guernsey blue seagull!
No visit to Guernsey would be complete without a trip to nearby Herm Island. Ferries from St. Peter's Port are frequent and reasonably priced at £19 each. The island itself is a bit like a cross between Father Ted's Craggy Island and the village from the cult TV show The Prisoner. The entire coastal walk around the island is just 4 miles. Motor vehicles are not allowed, and it does have some truly stunning beaches. But after the walk around the coast and a drink in one of the 2 bars, you're done. You're starting to suspect you're being watched, and it's time to catch the ferry back.
Well, what did you expect, man? A theme park? Fun fair? Or were you hoping for some more Nazi museums?
While we waited, we stopped for a drink in one of the 2 bars at the Ship Inn. It was nicely appointed, but only served bottled beer, and one of which was, you guessed it, Liberation Ale.
Good name.
After the Miami Vice-like boat ride back to St. Peter Port, we visited the Little Chapel, trumpeted as Guernsey's #1 tourist attraction with absolutely no suggestion of irony whatsoever. It was built by a monk out of rocks and broken crockery, demolished twice, the first time after the other monks made fun of it, and the second after a visiting bishop couldn't fit through the door.
Ah, that was Bishop Fatty of Jersey, that was.
Rather than suggest the Bish went on a diet, it was demolished again, and finally completed in 1939, just in time for the Germans to take it over. That was our trip done, and time for our return flight on unpronounceableairways.com.